Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. We just wanted to welcome you to this Wednesday webinar about creating a prenatal curriculum. Just wanted a quick reminder to mute your line and not to put it on hold because then we'll hear your hold music during the webinar. We just have a couple of quick housekeeping announcements first before we get started. We just wanted to update you on the CHAMPS 4-hour clinical skills trainings that have been going on. We have a few upcoming trainings in June and July. And if you want more information about that, you can go to our website on the events page. Just a note that to date, CHAMPS has hosted 26 trainings in 16 hospitals and has trained over 500 Mississippi-based clinicians. That's pretty cool. The next announcement we have is a reminder about our upcoming conference in November. It's called Systems for Success, the Baby-Friendly Hospital Initiative in the USA. And this conference is geared towards large state and national projects, insurers, and other agencies working towards baby-friendly. And then we also have another conference in Mississippi in November for all the Mississippi CHAMPS hospitals and also the Tennessee CHAMPS hospitals to work together and collaborate. So save the date for that if you're in Mississippi. And then I think that's all for the housekeeping notes. So I think I'll pass this to Kirsten. Where's she?
Great. That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for getting us started. And we will jump right in. I am going to give just a couple minutes of quick overview of kind of the rules surrounding a prenatal curriculum as far as Baby-Friendly has outlined them. And then we will go ahead and get started with all of our presenters today. So just really quickly, I'm putting this slide up here. It has all of the different education topics that are required by the Baby-Friendly guidelines and criteria, just so that everybody is aware that there are very specific pieces that need to be covered in every prenatal curriculum plan that you are implementing in your prenatal clinics. So I'm not going to belabor those. Those are written in a lot of different places. If you have any questions about any of them specifically, please just let us know, and we will be happy to go through them with you in more detail. Some more specific rules about prenatal education in a baby-friendly affiliated clinic. All of that education, so those topics that were listed in that previous slide, it's really important to complete all of that by 32 weeks. So after 32 weeks, Baby-Friendly will interview any of those moms that are 32 weeks and over to ensure that they know all of the content that they really should know by that point in their pregnancy, right? Additionally, if a mom has even 2 prenatal visits before 32 weeks, then that's considered adequate prenatal care. I recognize that's not really like clinically adequate, but as far as Baby-Friendly is concerned, they should have had adequate time to have had that education. I know that that seems like really a lot to put into 2 prenatal visits, but that's their definition. So just keep that in mind. And then the other question that we get a lot is who can do the education? Anyone can do it. It doesn't have to be just the provider. It can be the nurses. It can be a DVD. It can be a poster. It can be a handout. It doesn't matter who provides the education to the moms when they come in for their visits, as long as it gets provided in a way that it sticks with moms. And then real quick, Baby-Friendly will kind of test your prenatal curriculum in 2 different ways. First of all, they'll ask for a written curriculum, so they'll want to see your plan as it's written out. And then they will interview moms, and they will ask moms who are greater than 32 weeks into their pregnancy a series of questions about their breastfeeding knowledge. And that it covers everything from breastfeeding, skin to skin, a lot of different things that they have outlined that moms should be taught in their prenatal setting. And so with each question, 80% of mothers have to get every question correct. So question number one, 80% of moms have to answer it correctly. Question number two, 80% of moms have to answer it correctly. And that's how they test whether or not what you're doing for prenatal care is working, okay? The next slide just goes over the what, when, where, who, why of curriculum. Baby Friendly clearly lays out what needs to be taught. The when is really up to you, so you can split it, and we're going to hear lots of great ideas today. You can split it up over lots of appointments. You could try to stick it all in one appointment. You can do it however works for your clinic, as long as it's prior to 32 weeks. You can do it wherever you want in your clinic, and as we said just earlier, it can be whoever it needs to be, providing that education as long as it's sticking with moms. And it needs to go to all moms, regardless of their feeding choice. So even if a mom says, I plan to feed my baby formula, that's fine, but there's a lot of other really important things that she learns, as well as breastfeeding, right? Okay, so with that very brief overview of kind of the nuts and bolts of a prenatal curriculum as required by Baby Friendly, we are going to hand the ball over to Antoinette Kleiner, who is a nurse. She's going to give her introduction here, but she is a nurse consultant for the area office of Indian Health Service, working out of Shiprock, New Mexico. So Antoinette, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can, thank you.
All right, so I don't have access to my being able to flip the slides, so if you wouldn't mind if somebody can do that part, because I had to jump onto my smartphone in order to be able to watch along here.
That's fine. Rebecca, can you, okay, she's got it. I can see her taking the ball.
Okay, great. So, hi, my name is Antoinette Kleiner. Like Kirsten said, I work out at Shiprock, New Mexico with the Indian Health Services at one of their hospital facilities. I also have been working widely with our Navajo area baby-friendly task force and trying to help make sure that our patients receive the consistent message of baby-friendly throughout our service areas, because our patients are quite mobile and they have a lot of choices when it comes to where they want to seek care. So the next slide, please. This just shows a representation of where we're at for those of you who are not familiar with us. We're out in the Four Corners area, and our service area is kind of up in the top right-hand corner there in the pale yellow. We have patients that come to us from Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, kind of from that corner of the New Mexico state and Arizona state border all the way down to towards the Albuquerque area. So our patients, it's not uncommon for them to come to us from 3 hours away. So we really have been trying to make more of a systematic prenatal breastfeeding education program that is similar to the other service units in the Navajo area, so that patients are hearing that same message, even if one visit they decide to go out to Tuba City and another visit they decide to go out to Bloomfield, New Mexico. We want them to have that similar information. We're on the smaller side of hospital settings. We actually have 67 hospital beds and currently 12 labor, delivery, and postpartum type beds. We have about 450 deliveries annually, and our prenatal care services are affiliated with the main hospital. We have a family medicine clinic and a women's health clinic that provide those services here in-house, but we also do that at 2 of our satellite clinics and 3 field clinics, which are basically trailers out in the middle of the reservation where our providers will go so that patients can come in more locally and receive that prenatal care, and then they come in the hour or 2 hours to the hospital to deliver their baby. Next slide, please. So for us, we decided the process was going to start with breaking them down into smaller pieces. We actually created a system where we start with the positive pregnancy test. We have the benefit of providing full services at our hospital throughout the lifespan, so we pretty much know when women are pregnant, and we're getting them ready to start their pregnancy care. So we start right there. We give a very brief generalized breastfeeding handout with that very first prenatal visit, and we broke it up into 5 different packets of information that is completed by the time that they're 32 weeks so that we meet that baby-friendly criteria. For us, it's the nursing staff that actually provides the education handouts, starts talking to patients about breastfeeding topics, and starts the documentation process, and then our providers reinforce that. And we also have the benefit, again, because we work with the whole continuum of care, we have the benefit of having public health nurses that work alongside of us. So those patients that maybe are falling off the radar for coming into care, we send public health nurses out to them to try and reinforce or to provide this education. Next slide, please. The way we manage to do it is actually starting at the screening process. So like Kirsten was saying, it's up to you where you want to do it. For us, as the patient is coming in, the nursing assistant or the RN who is screening that patient and getting those initial vitals and chief complaints and reasons for the visit will actually review the chart quickly, determine what packet that patient is on, and hand that out, as well as start giving some of that education and putting that documentation into the chart. The nursing assistants in our women's health clinic were actually the ones who created this packet distribution, and they tried to match it with some of the time frames that our patients are generally coming for their prenatal care visits, so that we made sure to have something to give them at each opportunity, and we weren't having to like catch them up way late in the game. So this kind of helped make it an easier transition. When our PHNs or our public health nurses get consults because our patients are not coming into clinic, they did not keep their appointment, then our PHNs are actually going into our system and looking at doing a chart review to see what packets, what information has this patient received, what do they need to bring out to her, and then they'll actually provide that education at the home visit with the patient and document that in the EHR so that we're able to have a consistent communication, hopefully, across that patient's care. Next slide, please. For us, we learned the hard way, our first assessment, that using the system handouts doesn't always work for you. So if you've got things that you've inherited or you've taken on from other places, I would just caution, make sure that they work for your particular facility and your particular patients. We didn't pass our first site visit for the prenatal aspect because the handouts that we were giving to our patients and the questions we were asking them with the surveys showed us, that we were passing. We should be passing. But when Baby Friendly actually started using the language more deeply from their surveys, our patients were not able to answer those questions successfully. So we actually went back to the drawing board. We got a lot of feedback from our patients and our staff, and the unanimous result was that we needed more visual handouts and posters. We actually created this poster that's in the kind of center of that screen there that has a brief message from all 5 of our packets and some of the kind of highlights of what's included in those 2 to 3 pages of handouts that are in that packet, and that was highly successful for us. We put those on the walls in all of the prenatal clinic exam rooms, and we were able to then use that so that the patients could tell us what they received or didn't receive. We actually had patients that were requesting and reminding us, hey, you know, I don't think I received packet number 3, and can I have that, please? And on the flip side, our nursing staff and our physician staff and our midwives were able to point out to that poster on the wall and kind of guide that education for that visit. We also created more visual handouts, and there's some examples on the right-hand side of the slide that, you know, we kind of shamelessly stole and borrowed from other places. And it really made a big difference for us when it was those brief bulleted points with some great pictures that were appropriate for our patients. They were able to then remember the lessons of Baby Friendly and be able to pass the survey the second time. We used a chart flag system our second time around, and that's that kind of pink picture on the bottom left-hand corner to provide to the staff so that when the screener brought the patient in to have her vital signs taken and her weight measured, we were able to put this flag in the chart and have some of those questions right off of the survey and the answers. And we use that to guide our education for the patient and to start the survey process as we were providing the education. Next slide, please. And then finally, we wanted to make sure that our documentation would be accurate, because that is, you know, something that will helps us keep track of what we are doing, and then cross-check that with our surveys to make sure that what we think we're doing and documenting that we're doing is actually sticking with the patient, so that when they are surveyed by Baby Friendly, they can actually answer the questions correctly. I would make sure that you use the advantages of your system. We have a national EHR system across IHS. It doesn't allow us always to see what's happening from charts from other service units on a particular patient, but within our service unit, it allowed us to use that as a communication tool of our training, our teaching for the patient. We made it as easy as possible for our staff members to orient them to. In fact, we used like one code and had them just type in Baby Friendly packet number 1 or 2 or 3, etc. And that allowed for us to minimize how many education codes we needed to put into the system, because we have a standardized set that defines for us what's included in packet number 1, in packet number 2, etc. And training the staff to use that correctly was a huge deal. Once we got that learned, it made the transition much more smooth. And last slide, please. And is there one more slide? Next slide. Oh, thank you. So things that helped us was to really use our system and the powers of influence for the best fit. Find out what needs to work, what works best at each level. It may be different for your staff, it may be different for your patients, but using those systems advantages where you can really helps put some backbone behind that. Knowing your audience and really getting that message out to them in different ways so that those different preferences of learning can be met without recreating it every time. So when we have it in a video format or a picture handout format, or we're speaking to patients about that, the message continues to be consistent. Use those same words as Baby Friendly, because when they're familiar with those words and those terms, then it's easier for patients to recognize that and to answer those survey questions more correctly. And remember the whys. Our patients were very good, both the first time around, at answering, yes, somebody talked to me about the importance of skin-to-skin, but couldn't remember why skin-to-skin was important, for instance. And then also include those outside clinics. Even if they're not affiliated with you, let them know what's on your radar so that you can try to incorporate them into the bigger plan, because even if they're not at a clinic, receiving care at an affiliated clinic with your system, they would be delivering at your hospital, and so you would want them to have as much, information up front beforehand as possible. I do have a picture there of some of the breastfeeding education tools that we kind of created. We use those nice little babies up there that are not so flexible, so they're not really very realistic, but they do work well with our breast model, quilted breast models that we've created. We use those to teach hand expression and to teach latch. And then we've also created the baby stomach-sized belly balls there that are used routinely in our clinics to help put this information together. I was going to share a video that we put together, but I'm unable to do that for technical reasons. But if you can develop something that's visual, that's video, or DVD that you can play in your waiting rooms or pharmacies or other areas of your facility, those we have found to be very helpful too, just as that almost subliminal messaging that this is kind of what happens here with Baby Friendly at this hospital. So I would encourage you to be creative and find out those ways that are going to work in your facility.
Great. Thank you so much, Antoinette. That was a wonderful overview of making it work in a unique geographic situation and over several different clinics. Thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll have some questions for you in the end. We're going to move right on to Joan Rooney and Debbie Rainan at the Ochsner Medical Center West Bank campus in New Orleans. Joan, I will let you take it away.
Okay, thank you. I hope I can drive. So Debbie's with me now. So for the audience, we're part of a large health system in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge region. We are one campus out of 7 that have deliveries. We are on our journey as everyone is, and I just wanted to tell Antoinette thank you because I learned a lot from your slides as well, took some tips from you as well. So I know Kristen already went over, the topics to include, and this is kind of how we developed our curriculum. Similar to Antoinette, we had to break it apart into snippets of what's the best when to start, and actually we went to our clinic MAs and staff and said, look, here's the information we need to present, what's the best way? And so we listened to them, so listen to your end users because they will come up with the solution. So they felt that first prenatal visit when they're either getting that first ultrasound or pregnancy test, and what we talk about. And most of our education is done by the MAs and reinforced by the OBs. Why it's color-coded is in the state of Louisiana, we are using what's called Coeffective Platform. It's a platform that actually is all evidence-based information on breastfeeding that covers all the topics for Baby Friendly. And we, as part of the program in Louisiana, we are all the hospitals and clinics in the state have an opportunity to use the tools from the platform, not only for patient education, but for staff education. So it's color-coded because, and I'll show you in a later slide, it follows some of the counseling sheets that Coeffective has, and it mirrors what should be spoken of at that visit. So the initial prenatal visit, we provide our prenatal clinics with a bag, and it actually has just like a welcome letter in there and some general overview of baby-friendly, what to kind of expect in a general sense of what the stay will be like in the hospital. But it has a card on there where it puts them in touch with our OB nurse navigator. And that person is sort of like our one connect person, that if they had any questions related to anything regarding their visits or what their hospital or they need additional class, so that we found that one contact, if they felt they got lost at anywheres along the way, they could be, you know, that at least call that one person, and then she could redirect them either to the physician's office or maybe she could reinforce some of the education. So they get this on the first visit. And then this is just a sample of some of the handouts that are either in the packet or that will be presented to them at various points of their prenatal visits. So we use a combination, so in, I don't know if you can see me pointing, but this is a flip chart, and that flip chart actually is a tool that's in the waiting room that as they're waiting for their appointment, they can kind of thumb through. It has a lot of visuals. I agree with Antoinette. A picture says 1,000 words, and it will prompt questions. And then that information as well. So in the next slide, you will see one of our MAs actually using the flip chart and actually using the co-effective counseling sheets. There's various ways they do this. So as they seat the patient in the clinic while waiting for the provider, they will either go over some of the information in the flip chart or the counseling sheet to kind of go over what I should be going over at this visit. And they might say, you know, while you're waiting for the physician, you can go through the information, and when we come back in, if you have any questions, we can go over further the information with you. So it gives them an opportunity to kind of have something. It's more poignant, and it's more pointing out exactly what they might need to know at that point. So you're giving them a little information at a time. Oh, I went too far. So I'm going to ask Debbie if she wants to chime in, because Debbie actually is the clinic manager, and she's really working with her staff to really make it work for them, right? And that so that they become engaged.
Hello, everyone. I agree with Joan. I think you do have to listen to your staff. They're the ones that are there with the patients doing it. The co-effective flip chart has worked really well, as well as the counseling sheets for the patients. It's great when all of the staff as well as the physicians are on board. So we find that this works very well.
The other thing is co-effective, for those of you who don't know, also has an app. Mm-hmm. So we provide the parents, and when we're introducing it to them, we show them the app that they can put on their phone, and the app follows everything that we're going to go over with them throughout their prenatal. So it gives them a chance to have the app, and we can just say, oh, when you come in for your appointment, did you download the app? You know, and then you know, you can have your family look at the information on the app as well. So it all marries together, but it also prompts them to ask more questions or to get more information. We also all of this is follows too. So if we do a prenatal class, if we do a Lamaze class, if we do a tour of the hospital, if we get patients in labor and delivery that are just, you know, in and out like triage, and it, you know, they're not ready to deliver, we try to introduce some bit of information at their point of access, so that we can just reinforce, or it might be the first time they're hearing it. You know, for some patients who don't get any prenatal care, you might be giving them everything when they come into the hospital for the first time. So, and we've tried to break it out so that they're getting everything by 32 weeks. And
I definitely think the bags that we put together work very well. The visual stuff, I think, is a great way to grab their attention. If it's too much reading, I think it's a distraction for them, whereas the visual stuff does work. And like Joan, I want to thank Antoinette for her presentation because we kind of picked up on some tidbits. So I think this is a great way for us to share information and steal little secrets from one another to make it more effective and for our patients.
And the other thing Antoinette said is definitely want to reiterate on is reaching out with your other clinics, because we have actually 2 WIC clinics we're very closely involved with, and they are also using the co-effective sheets. So it sort of, again, we want to make sure we're partners and we're all saying the same language, because and then we have another community physicians that we work with. They're prenatal clinic as well, and they're just starting to use our information. So the hope is if you create kind of a platform for them and let them kind of design how they want to make it work in their setting, I think we'll go a long way. Going to their office and actually talking to not only the providers but the staff. We've had our lactation team, we've had our baby-friendly committee actually come and do presentations for the staff. What challenges do you have? You know, it helps you identify what resources you can provide them or additional tools. So that you cannot engage your prenatal clinic staff more enough, you know, because they're going to own it once they realize how important it is.
I agree with that.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much, Joan and Debbie. That was a wonderful presentation. And so we will just keep cruising right along. Our next presenter is Ophelia O'Donnell. She is the baby-friendly lead at the William Beaumont Army Medical Center in El Paso, Texas, and they also have an affiliated prenatal clinic. So Ophelia is going to tell us a little bit about what they're doing. Ophelia, are you on the line? You might be on mute. I know that she's on here because she's texting me and telling me she's on, but I think we're just having some technical difficulties getting her audio. She says she can hear us.
Tell her to try #6.
There you are. There you are. We can hear you, Ophelia. Oh, wait,
okay,
that
perfect.
wasn't Ophelia, huh? Yes.
No, this is
great.
This is
Thank
Ophelia.
Wonderful.
Can you hear me now?
Go for it. All yours. Yes.
Okay. All right. So hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you today. We are really excited about our baby-friendly initiatives. We did have a new set of pamphlets that I've included in this presentation for you. We do have 2 different systems that we use to track our documentation. We do have a different system in the clinic, and we will be pulling reports so that we can ensure that the documentation that needs to be there to in support of the education we're providing at different visits is there. I'm not able to advance my slides. There we go. So we did follow the research presented by the Baby-Friendly USA prenatal curriculum to implement that into every visit. And of course, we have to make sure that all the documentation or the education we're providing in the clinic is the same education our patients are receiving once they are in L&D and postpartum, to make sure that we are not causing any confusion or, of course, mislead our patient, which, of course, that would not be anyone's intent. And our providers also have attended the same information seminars. Everything has been screened across the board to make sure that the providers, nursing staff, any ancillary staff receive the same information. So if they are communicating with the patient, we are providing the same guidance all the time. Could I have the next slide, please? So last May, our facility coordinated in a seminar or training seminar with our Department of State Health Services, and it was an all-day event that provided evidence-based care to support the mother-baby diet, steps 1 through 4, and steps 5 through 10. We had 100% of our providers, OB, and pediatricians attend that. Pardon me, I think it was 95%. The medical providers can also use Hallmark Health System, the Northeastern Online Breastfeeding course. Next slide, please. The training curriculum we have available to our nursing staff is First Latch. It's an online program, and it is a 15-hour curriculum, and our staff also has access to our lactation consultant for any questions or concerns that were not addressed during the seminar or to reinforce anything that they were introduced to during this online program. As of right now, 100% of our clinic staff, nursing staff, have completed this training. Anyone who completes the CLC certification or IBCLC certification will also meet education requirements. And right now we do have 5 nursing staff signed up for the October class to obtain their CLC certification. And this is, of course, a great asset as far as education is concerned to our prenatal community, because we will have the CLCs in the clinic as opposed to just waiting until they deliver and get that support system then. Next slide, please. So the Women's Health Clinic has prenatal education posters in every provider's room for patient visibility, and this outlines a certain amount of information at each clinic. Also, we don't want to overload our patients with too much information, but it's introducing certain topics at designated visits. And the visits are divided into 12 to 16 weeks, 20 weeks, 24 weeks, 32 and 36-week gestation at point. Next slide, please. I was trying to get this poster in there. I don't know if you're able to slide down, but this pretty much breaks everything down up to 36 weeks. And it includes pain management as well. Next slide, please. Prenatal education forms are provided according to their designated week gestation visit. The nurses provide forms to the patients. Both the nurses and doctors provide the education. If they have any other questions or concerns, we also make arrangements for the lactation consultant to speak with them. The forms are readily available in each clinic hallway. They're displayed according to the week gestation, also to provide the guidance. We do realize that it's a fast pace in the clinic, but we want to make sure that the same information is given to all the patients at a certain time frame. We do have other classes that we provide to them, and they are in line with this schedule as well. These education forms are also providing in our Centering of Pregnancy program. That is in a separate venue from the clinic, but it's all the same information provided at the same week gestation. Next slide, please. This is one of the slides. I won't go into too much detail for you. I know I have to keep a certain time frame here, but this is the first slide, and these are all of these are in the clinic, and they're in our centering program, so we provide the same information at the same time frame to our patients. Next slide, please. These are the 2 forms that we provided, 20 weeks. 24 weeks, 28 weeks, pain management is a big one, which would be the next slide, because everyone wants to know how they can avoid that epidural, and we do definitely try to accommodate any of their concerns and instruct them to support them during the labor process. We also provide breastfeeding classes. We have tours of our inpatient labor and delivery unit, mother-baby unit, and lactation consultant room. We want to make sure that they know where to go if they have any questions, and we do have patients that want to address certain questions or concerns prior to their delivery. They feel they are a little bit more prepared, and I totally agree with them, and we definitely encourage and support that. So we want to make sure they have access to our lactation consultant at all times. And this also provides the opportunity for patients to ask any questions at the time of the tour. And I think that's all I have for now. Any questions?
Great. Thank you so much, Ophelia. You know what, we'll take questions all right at the end.
Okay.
Our handouts are gorgeous, so that was a wonderful visual. And so now we're going to move into Susan Spencer's presentation, and she is at Baptist Memorial Hospital in Golden Triangle in Columbus, Mississippi, and they are a little bit different. So they do not have an affiliated clinic, but we're asking Susan to present today because they're doing really a lot to work toward getting that prenatal education into their clinics and to their prenatal patients in a lot of different and creative ways. So I will turn it over to Susan and let her kind of describe the things that she's working on. I don't believe that Susan has, so we're just going to have to, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. We'll just be on the edge of our seats listening to your story, Susan. So I
have actually learned that we are not doing very much compared to what I've seen here. We're going to do more now because I have some great ideas for the private clinics. We have a couple of nurses who worked with another one of our nurses who was master's prepared, and these two nurses that really spearheaded the program went into one of our busiest clinics and worked with the physician and his staff to hold a breastfeeding class in his office. We have not yet gotten out to the offices with gestational age appropriate information, but I think that is a fantastic idea. Of course, with private physicians, we can't control whether they will hand it out or how they go about handing it out, but I think we plan to educate their staff with their voluntary participation. And so what's happening right now is that on one Wednesday a month, the two nurses hold a class during the noon hour in the one very busy physician office. We at first didn't have good participation at all. The next month I think we had like 4, and then the next month we had like 12. So it's just gotten started. We haven't yet done one for the month of May, and we'll see if participation increases. We have had questions from other physicians whether their patients can go to that office and participate as well, and the answer is yes. Both the physician's office where we're holding the class and, of course, our nurses are open to anyone coming. We do have, and I have completely reviewed, we have breastfeeding classes that go along with our prenatal classes that are offered here at Baptist Hospital, but they're voluntary participation. We are encouraging families to come. We do have scholarship funds available for those families who cannot afford to pay for the classes. We have tours available, but I see great opportunities to make more of this available and to kind of advertise it through the physician offices and to give them handouts that are appropriate for each gestational visit. So ours is really short and sweet, and we're full house today. So one of the nurses is actually here who does lead those classes, and she is unable to come in because she's busy with patient care.
Great. Thank you so much, Susan. I'm sure that we'll have some more questions for you. And thank you so much for taking the time away from your busy hospital. I would like to open it up to questions. Can we unmute all the phones and allow for questions directed to specific people or just in general?
Yes, and hello, this is Anne. I just wanted to chip in quickly. We do have on our CHAMPS website a lot of different materials that you can access. We do not have the co-effective materials, but we know that many of the New Orleans area hospitals are using them, that people really like them. And you can Google them online. I know that Kathy Carruthers, who's on our CHAMPS team, works with co-effective in the New Orleans area. So I would think that everyone in that area actually knows about those materials, but certainly, although we're not affiliated with them, we certainly have seen people very happy with them. But you know, you may want to choose any kind of materials, and as I say, we on the CHAMPS team, Cami and Roger, have gone through a lot of materials that are available for free online, and have posted those materials or links to those materials on the CHAMPS website. So feel free to browse through those and know that anything that you take from our website will be appropriate for baby-friendly and for the whole baby-friendly process. So anything you take from ours, it should pass muster with baby-friendly. I just wanted to put that information in there. Thank you.
Great. Do we have any questions from any of the listeners out there today? Given people a second to come up with their questions. I don't know, Ophelia, are you still on the line? One of the things that Ophelia mentioned were the tours that she's doing. And if you're there, Ophelia, I'd like to give you a chance to tell us a little bit more about those. Those can be really valuable, especially in hospitals that do not have affiliated clinics, as it is a way that you do have contact with those prenatal moms before they come and deliver. And when you script out a tour really nicely, you can hit a lot of those prenatal education topics at your tour. And so that's sometimes a nice idea for providing that education to moms when you don't have an affiliated clinic to kind of provide that information in a really organized way that you can control. Any questions, any other comments, anything that anybody would like to share about something that you are doing?
I hope people aren't too intimidated by what we've seen today. We did pick 3 sites, you know, Shiprock, where Antoinette has been designated for some time, and we picked sites where people are pretty far along in the process. So I know that I just wanted to mention that prenatal care is definitely one of the most difficult areas. And just in general, some advice would be, you know, that you need to involve, if you're sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, you know, we're not at that point yet, a couple of general tips, you know, make sure that the prenatal care facilities that you are affiliated with are on your baby-friendly task force, maybe more than one person. They have a whole clinic to administer, not just sort of one area like some of the people on the task force might have. Sometimes I feel it's a bit loaded against the prenatal one representative who's then got to go off and do everything. So it's really a good idea to really fully integrate your prenatal care into your task force so that they know exactly what's going on and then can get help from everyone else on the task force. And I think Kirsten mentioned, but the audit tools are really good to do as well. So those of you who are moving into the dissemination phase, you have audit tools in that phase that you can use in all areas of patient care. But those of you who especially kind of want to figure out if your prenatal people are really getting the information that's sinking in and they're understanding and able to reiterate it, use the audit tools to do that. That's what Baby Friendly will use. And you have access to those tools. It's an open book test. Everything that you ask the patients, they're going to be able to. That's exactly what Baby Friendly is going to ask them. So those are just a couple of other thoughts. And I just really want to thank the presenters. Those, you know, it is a difficult area to master, and you have to be a lot more creative than you might think at the beginning about just giving out a handout. So thank you for the great creativity and ideas that you shared with us today.
Great, thank you, Anne. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you just a couple more seconds. If you have questions, you can type them into the chat box, or you can just ask them over the phone. Otherwise, we will end the call just a few minutes early. All right. Seeing nothing in the chat box and hearing nothing, I will go ahead and say goodbye to you guys today. I hope that you have a wonderful lunch. I believe we're coming up on lunch hour for many of you. And a wonderful day, and great luck going forward. If you have questions or you just need some assistance, always reach out to us. We are here to help you. Thank you again to all our presenters for presenting today. And we'll see you next time. Thank you all so much.